I always believed that betrayal came with warning signs, missed calls, distant eyes, or maybe even lipstick stains. But when it finally hit me, it came with a smile and a lie so smooth, I almost didn't catch it. "It's just a guy's night. Babe," he said, grabbing his keys, pressing a quick kiss to my forehead like he still loved me. "We'll probably hit the bar and crash at Jared's." That was the moment. Right there. I should have known. Not because of what he said, but because he made sure to say it twice. He never repeated himself unless he was lying. That night, I stood at the window for hours, watching our quiet street bathe in the soft amber of street lamps. My phone sat untouched on the kitchen table, its silence screaming louder than a thunderstorm. He didn't text, didn't call, no updates, no drunk messages, and I knew. I just knew. The gut is never wrong, is it? And mine was churning with a sickness I couldn't explain. Not until 3:07 a.m., when I heard the key turn in the lock. He tiptoed in like a coward. I didn't even pretend to be asleep. I watched him walk into the room, reeking of expensive perfume I didn't wear. And still, I said nothing, because I needed to be sure. You don't destroy your marriage over a suspicion. You destroy it over proof. We had been together for 10 years, married for 7, built a life that looked picture-perfect from the outside. A nice house, weekend getaways, matching coffee mugs with cheesy inside jokes. Everyone envied our bond. Everyone thought we were that couple. But here's the truth. Even the prettiest frames can hold broken glass. Over the next few weeks, the lies grew. So did the distance. He stopped looking me in the eyes. His phone, once left on the coffee table with no passcode, now never left his hand. His laughter became rarer, except when he was texting. He'd smile at the screen in a way he hadn't smiled at me in months. I stopped being his wife. I became his roommate with a shared mortgage. But even then, I didn't say a word. Because again, I needed the proof. The night that shattered. Everything was a Friday. He told me he'd be out late with his work buddies. Said not to wait up. "Don't worry," I said with a smile. "Have fun." But this time, I didn't sit by the window. I went to my office, closed the door, and opened my laptop. Because earlier that week, I'd done something I never imagined I'd be capable of. I installed spyware on his phone. Legally? Questionable? Probably? Morally justified? I'd say yes, I needed the truth. And if he wasn't going to give it to me, I'd find it myself. At exactly 9:32 p.m., my screen lit up with GPS data showing his location. He wasn't at a bar. He wasn't at Jared's. He was parked in the driveway of her house. Her name was Alicia. She was younger, blonde, a coworker from his office that he swore he barely talked to. Turns out they'd been barely talking all the way into each other's beds for over 4 months. And in that moment, staring at the live feed of betrayal from the comfort of my office chair, I didn't cry. I smiled. Because now I had everything I needed. And he had no idea what was coming. I wish I could say I stormed into her house and made a scene. That I slapped him across the face and called her every name in the book. But no, I was done playing the part of the heartbroken wife. That role had expired the moment he parked in her driveway like it was his second home. Instead, I watched. Watched as the dots on the GPS app danced through her neighborhood. Watched him stay for hours. Watched him leave at 2:14 a.m. and drive home like nothing happened. He slipped into bed beside me, his breathing shallow and careful, like he thought he was sneaking past a sleeping ghost. But I was wide awake. The next morning, he made me coffee. Sat across from me with a lazy smile like he hadn't just betrayed every vow he ever made. "How was the bar?" I asked, pretending to sip the poison in my cup. "Loud," he said. "Jared got so wasted, it was embarrassing." He was lying. So easily now, it was almost like breathing for him. And that's when the real pain hit. Not just from the affair itself, but from the years of my life I had invested in a man who could look me dead in the eye and feed me fiction like I was stupid, like I would never know. It wasn't just the infidelity, it was the manipulation, the gaslighting. The way he made me feel like I was paranoid, too sensitive, too emotional. I started to look back at our history with new eyes, the work trips that suddenly popped up, the last-minute client dinners, the mysterious charges on our joint credit card from restaurants I'd never been to. He had been doing this for a while, maybe with others before her, maybe not. But the truth was undeniable now. My marriage was a performance, and I had been cast as the fool. Financially, we were entangled. We had a shared mortgage, shared bank accounts, and even shared credit. I realized that if I made the wrong move, he could walk away with everything: our house, our savings, even the equity I helped build while he was out building a second life. That wasn't something I could risk. Not just for me, but because I had worked too damn hard to get where I was. I had supported his dreams while putting mine on hold, helped pay off his student loans, skipped vacations to help him invest in a startup that failed miserably, and picked up extra hours at my job when his company downsized. I did it because that's what partners do. But he chose to pay me back with secrets, betrayal, and nights in another woman's bed. There were moments when I wanted to scream, to throw things, to break the silence that wrapped around our home like a suffocating fog. But I didn't. Instead, I started documenting, quietly, carefully, every lie, every false location ping, every time-stamped message I intercepted from the spyware, every screenshot, every audio recording. I even installed a hidden camera in the living room, something I once thought only paranoid people did. Now I understood why they did it. I was building a case, not for court, not yet, but for clarity, for leverage, for truth. Because this wasn't just about a broken heart anymore. It was about justice. It was about making sure he didn't walk away clean, smiling, while I was left to pick up the shattered pieces of a life I thought we were building together. And the worst part? He still thought I didn't know. Still kissed me goodbye in the mornings, told me he loved me, while texting her from the driveway. That was his biggest mistake. Because a woman scorned is dangerous. But a woman who's been silent too long? She's deadly. Infidelity is never just about sex or attraction. It's about betrayal. It's about choices. And the moment I accepted that he had chosen her, and chosen to lie to me again and again, I realized something else. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was erasing me. Every moment he spent in that other life, he was dismantling the one we built together, brick by brick, without my consent. And worse, he was leaving me holding the debris. We had plans. Not just dreams, plans. I had just started applying to MBA programs. He knew that. He encouraged it, said he'd support me financially while I took classes and scaled back work hours. That was our agreement. But then I started noticing how his tone changed when I talked about school. He'd say things like, "Is now really the best time?" Or, "What if you wait a year?" At the time, I thought it was concern. In hindsight, I see it for what it was: stalling. Because he wasn't planning for our future. He was investing in someone else's. Then there was the house we bought 3 years ago, the one with the little reading nook I carved, out for myself by the window, the garden I tended to every spring. It was in both our names. But guess who had been forgetting to forward me the monthly mortgage breakdown? Guess who had slowly started diverting funds into a separate account? Not me. I dug into our finances. I had to. And what I found made my stomach turn. He had started moving money 6 months ago. Little amounts at first, just enough not to raise alarms. Then larger ones, thousands, disguised as investments and loan repayments. When I confronted the transactions with myself, laid it all out, I realized he was preparing for a life without me. He wasn't just cheating, he was planning his exit. But he was doing it in silence, so that when the time came, he could leave. And take half, if not more, with him. The house, the car, the accounts, my future. That's when I knew. This wasn't just emotional devastation. This was war. And like any war, it needed a strategy. He had no idea how much I had uncovered. He still thought I was clueless. Still laughed when I asked if we could do a weekend getaway. Said he was swamped at work, even though I'd seen his location ping at her apartment again. He'd lie to my face while I smiled and handed him his morning coffee. But inside, I was done crying, because this wasn't just about him hurting me. This was about him trying to erase me from my own life, strip me of the stability I had earned, the identity I had worked to build. I couldn't let him get away with that. Not just for me, but for the version of me who stayed up late helping him prep for job interviews, who took care of him when he got sick, who celebrated his wins like they were my own. I owed it to her, to the woman I had been in this marriage, and I owed it to the woman I was becoming. So I started to rebuild, not emotionally, not yet. But strategically, I met with a financial advisor, quietly opened my own bank account, started saving everything: receipts, transfers, emails, messages, GPS logs, began speaking to a lawyer in secret. And still, I said nothing to him. because every day that passed, he gave me more rope, and I was going to make sure that when the time came, he'd hang himself with it. I had spent weeks playing the part, loving wife, loyal partner, doting homemaker. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his recycled stories, even sat through reruns of shows I hated just to keep up the charade. But beneath that surface, I was building something far stronger than love or forgiveness. I was building a plan. The first step was information. Pure, cold evidence. I had everything I needed. GPS logs proving he was never where he said he was, text messages with Alicia that bordered on nauseating, transaction records showing gifts he had purchased under our joint account, jewelry, hotel bookings, even a spa day charged to our card. And then came the videos. Thanks to the hidden camera in our living room, I caught footage of him taking video calls with her when he thought I was out, him lounging on our couch, whispering sweet nothings to someone who wasn't me. It made my skin crawl, but I didn't look away. I cataloged every second. Because this wasn't just personal anymore. This was preparation. Once the evidence was airtight, I focused on the legal side. I wasn't going to blow up and storm out like in the movies. That's what men like him count on. Emotional reactions, tears, chaos. They think it makes us unstable, unreliable. I was going to be the opposite. Calm, strategic, devastating. I met with a divorce attorney, a woman named Elise, who, the moment I laid everything out, for her, leaned back in her chair and said, "He won't know what hit him." We drafted a plan that would put everything in motion at the perfect time. Elise helped me separate my finances legally and quietly. She also filed paperwork to freeze major joint assets so he couldn't drain them the moment things got ugly. And then, the pièce de résistance, my digital dossier. I compiled everything into a folder labeled Insurance and backed it up on 2 separate drives. Copies went to Elise, to my sister, to a cloud account only I had access to. I wanted it to be bulletproof, because I knew that when this house of cards fell, he'd try to play innocent, deny everything, maybe even try to spin it on me. So I was making it impossible. But I wasn't done there. You see, while he was out building a future with his mistress, I was rebuilding my network. Friends he had slowly distanced me from, I reached out. Coworkers of his I used to chat with at company barbecues, I sent casual messages, reconnected, asked questions, and that's when I found something golden. Alicia wasn't just some random fling. She was married. Yes, married. I found her husband's Instagram account, full of happy couple selfies and anniversary captions. My heart ached for him, this stranger unknowingly caught in the same trap. I debated whether to reach out, but then I realized he deserved the truth just as much as I did. So I reached out, cautiously, respectfully. I told him I had reason to believe our spouses were involved. I offered to share evidence. He responded within hours, and when I showed him what I had, he went silent. Then he wrote, "Thank you, I had no idea. Let's talk." And just like that, the plan shifted from personal to collaborative. Together, we devised a timeline. We would confront them on the same day, at the same time. There would be no escape, no chance to run back to each other to comfort their lies. And still, I smiled at my husband every morning. Still kissed him goodnight. Because the plan needed one last ingredient: perfect timing. Once the plan was in place, it was time to execute. No more pretending. No more tears behind locked bathroom doors. This phase wasn't about emotion. It was about control. About reclaiming power from someone who thought he held all the cards. Step 1. Secure my financial freedom. The first thing Elise advised was to open an individual bank account in my name only. I moved my paycheck direct deposit there and started saving aggressively. I also canceled my name on any joint credit cards I didn't use, so if he decided to run up debt out of spite, I wouldn't be legally responsible. Next, I pulled copies of all our financial statements, mortgage documents, tax returns, retirement, accounts, hidden investments he thought I didn't know about. I scanned and backed up every document to a secure folder. Information is leverage, and I was going to make sure he had none. Step 2. Gather indisputable evidence. Spyware had already given me access to his messages and location history, but I needed to go further. I took screenshots of text threads. Between him and Alicia, some explicit, some casually cruel. Like when he called me deadweight in a message and laughed about how easy I was to lie to. I recorded video clips from the hidden camera, every whispered phone call, every smirk as he talked about me like I didn't matter. I even recorded audio from a night when he was on the phone in our living room saying, "She suspects something, but she'll never do anything." Oh, I would, and I was. Step 3. Document his pattern of behavior. Betrayal doesn't start with cheating. It starts with erosion of trust, of kindness, of presence. I began writing everything down. The nights he said he was working late but GPS proved otherwise. The dates he missed, the holidays he couldn't get away for, only to be seen at brunch in a stranger's tagged photo. It was tedious, yes, but it painted a picture, a pattern, and in court, patterns matter. Step 4. Protect my digital identity. He had access to all my devices, passwords, email, even my laptop. I changed everything, every login, every recovery question. I backed up my files, deleted sensitive apps, and moved anything personal to secure cloud storage. Then I installed software to track any attempts he might make to access my accounts. Because if he tried to sabotage me, I'd know. Step 5. Build support before the storm. I had isolated myself for too long. Whether by design or neglect, he had slowly pushed away the people I leaned on. But I wasn't going into this alone. I told my sister everything. She cried and cursed, and then offered me her guest room if I needed it. My best friend? She came over that night with a bottle of wine and helped me create a freedom fund. Even Alicia's husband Nick and I kept in contact regularly, coordinating every detail of the confrontation. I wasn't just collecting allies, I was rebuilding my foundation. The day before it all went down, I made sure everything was airtight. My attorney had the divorce papers prepped and ready. The evidence folder was ready to be shared. My financial accounts were secure. My mind was clear. And him? He had no idea. He left that night for drinks with coworkers. I watched him walk out, checked the GPS, and confirmed what I already knew. He was headed to Alicia's place. Again. I made myself tea, sat on the couch, and waited. Because tomorrow, everything would change. The morning of the confrontation was eerily calm. The kind of stillness you feel before a storm tears everything down to its foundations. I didn't eat. I didn't pace. I didn't cry. I had done all of that already. Now, I was just ready. He walked into the kitchen like it was any other morning. Kissed my cheek, told me he might be home late again. Meetings stacked all afternoon. I nodded, smiled. That's fine. He didn't see the folder already on the dining table, labeled with his name in thick black letters. He didn't notice the second cup of coffee poured for someone else. Nick arrived 10 minutes after my husband left. We had coordinated everything. Alicia was at her office. My husband would stop by during lunch, and at 12:15 p.m., just as he'd be walking through her apartment door, she'd come face to face with her husband, armed with screenshots, timestamps, and truths she couldn't wriggle out of. Meanwhile, I had my own theater of reckoning to prepare. At exactly 1 p.m., I sent my husband a text. Come home, now. It was short, sharp, and enough to rattle him. He replied almost instantly. Why? What's going on? I didn't answer. By 1:30, the door slammed open. His face was pale, lips parted, panic already bleeding through. He looked at the table, saw the folder, saw my calm. Sit, I said. He sat. I opened the folder and started laying it all out. The texts, the receipts, the GPS data, the video clips. One by one, like a surgeon exposing layers of rot. He didn't speak for the first 5 minutes. Then the denials started. This isn't what it looks like. You went through my phone? You're being crazy right now. Classic tactics. Deflect, dismiss, gaslight. But I didn't flinch. I slid the final page across the table, the signed divorce papers. He froze. I've already filed, I said. My attorney has everything. So do yours. Don't even think about contesting. I have more than enough to bury you legally. I can explain, he stammered, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away. Don't. We're past explanations. Then I hit him with the part he didn't see coming. You know Alicia's husband? Yeah. He knows everything too. Met him, actually. Nice guy. Honest, loyal, everything you're not. His face crumbled. And for the first time in this entire ordeal, I saw real fear in his eyes. Not the fear of losing me, but the fear of losing everything. His reputation, his access, his control. Please, he said. Can we talk about this? I stood up, took a deep breath. We just did. He left that afternoon, packed a single bag, muttering apologies I didn't care to hear. I didn't yell, didn't cry, just watched him walk away like the ghost he had become long ago. Over the next few weeks, everything moved fast. Elise was a godsend. We negotiated a divorce agreement that protected me, locked down assets, and ensured he couldn't manipulate his way out of financial accountability. He lost more than he expected. His credibility, his easy exit plan, his fallback mistress who apparently didn't take it well when her own marriage exploded in her face. I changed the locks, repainted the bedroom, reclaimed the house as mine. The silence, once suffocating, became peaceful. I started therapy, went back to school, even traveled alone for the first time in years. I found myself again, in the quiet, in the healing, in the small victories. He, from what I've heard, is trying to piece his life back together. Last I checked, Alicia wasn't part of it. Karma works quickly sometimes. But this wasn't just karma. This was justice. Because I didn't just survive his betrayal, I dismantled it, brick by brick, lie by lie, until all that was left was the truth, and the woman he never thought would rise. And rise I did, with nothing left to prove. And nothing left to fear.